Lord of the Rings has been an absolute favourite of mine. I know there's been a bit of a mixed reception with its alignment to the books, and I did feel that there was some pacing issues, as well as some aggressive character introductions in Season 1, but I just can't help but get so excited because it's Lord of the Rings. So my friends, now that we've got the introduction of Season 2 of the Rings of Power, do we have a blockbuster, a 50-50, or a flopbuster on our hands? A new darkness is rising across Middle-earth. As the epic tale continues with Season 2 of the Rings of Power, old alliances are tested and new threats are emerging from the shadows. After the events of Season 1, we find our familiar heroes in a fractured Middle-earth, each on a different path. Galadriel, Elendil, and others are rallying forces and forging alliances as powerful evil resurfaces. With the fate of their lands hanging in the balance, the characters are drawn back into the fight to defend Middle-earth from impending danger. Dark forces are stirring as Sauron's influence begins to corrupt and divide the people of Middle-earth. With rising tensions, kingdoms must decide if they will join forces or fall apart. As hidden dangers lurk and betrayals unfold, our heroes face their toughest battle yet, struggling not only against the enemy, but also with trust and loyalty within their own ranks. Season 2 plays a crucial role in expanding the Rings of Power storyline, taking us deeper into the world of Middle-earth. The stakes are higher with bigger battles and heightened politics, and a sense of mystery that's woven throughout this season. We're getting 8 episodes that are roughly made up of an hour in length, so it can feel like there's a lot to get through with this story in Season 2. But who doesn't love a high number of watch hours, especially with a classic like Lord of the Rings? I mean, for me personally, I can't watch the old Lord of the Rings if it's not the extended version, and that is super lengthy. The plot and storyline for Season 2 of the Rings of Power picks up well from where it left off in Season 1, but with a lot more momentum here. I will say that the pacing feels a little bit familiar, yet this time around in Season 2 it feels a lot smoother, and there's a lot more happening. The story does build nicely based on Season 1 where it's laid out its foundations, staying consistent with expanding the world and building on the story, which really is what I was expecting in terms of being able to build that depth. What I like about this now is that because we've got a clearer sense of who the characters are, the show does feel a little bit less intense and aggressive and a lot more engaging. It feels like a very good and progressive season that is paving the way for an explosive Season 2. Something is definitely brewing. One of the scenes that really grabbed my attention, and is probably my most memorable moment, or at least one of them, is the opening scene where Sauron is trying to win over the orcs. It's not the simple, ruthless demand that you would expect. There's a surprising amount of resistance from those orcs, and it's clear that convincing them is not all that straightforward and easy. This moment is crucial because it reveals a different side of the orcs. You see them as more than just brutal followers. They have families, they feel doubt, and they're not blindly loyal to Sauron from the start. It adds depth to the usual good versus evil dynamic. The challenge here is that Sauron has to earn their trust and loyalty. The orcs, hesitant to rally behind him, need more than just empty promises. This reluctance introduces a new tension as Sauron has to work harder to sway them, showing vulnerability in his position. Eventually, Sauron does convince the orcs to join him, but it's clear that it took more effort than he might have actually anticipated. He appeals to their desire for a place in the world and a future for their families, which ultimately sways them to his side. The resolution here is actually quite intriguing, because we're seeing more and more of a humanized element of the orcs, and that's something that we've not really ever seen before. It makes you feel more connected to them, even sympathetic, seeing them as creatures with their own desires and doubts. It's an interesting twist that adds a lot of depth to the story, and also the expectations that we would be thinking surrounding Sauron's influence has actually been broken because it's actually less absolute and more complex. When it comes to the critiques of the show, the pacing of Season 2 feels a little bit stop-start, which makes it harder to stay fully engaged in earlier episodes. You might find yourself waiting for something to finally click. Through the first several episodes, it takes the plot a little bit of a while to actually start to unfold, which can make it a little bit challenging to stay fully invested and engaged. But by the time episode 6 rolls around, the show finally hits its stride. As you're waiting and as things start to happen that you think this is where the peak and climax is going to start taking place, and it's going to be a little bit different from season 1, but actually is it? And you're finding yourself questioning, where is this climax going to be unleashed? There's a noticeable shift, and things all start to come together probably by the end of episode 6, which ends up pulling you back in and really double down on that investment and engagement. Episode 6 for me is definitely the turning point in the show. Suddenly the stakes are higher and the characters have more purpose. This episode moves the story forward with more urgency and energy, creating an intense atmosphere that was missing from the earlier episodes. As the pace picks up with episode 6, the momentum starts to build, and that's where we dive deeper into the drama and the action that we've all been waiting for. The story here all starts to weave together with the multitude of plot lines, and you can feel that tension building towards a meaningful conclusion. When the pacing picks up, it feels satisfying, as if the show's finally found its groove. It actually feels quite rewarding to see the show starting to come alive, especially after the slow build-up, and it leaves you feeling more invested in the season, especially as it makes its push towards the season finale. Now, maybe I need to be more patient, but I'm not so sure that I want them to continue to leave all of the actions to the latter stages, especially in season 3. Season 2 of The Rings of Power stars Morfydd Clark as Galadriel, Robert Aramayo as Elrond, Owain Arthur as Durin, Ismail Cordova as Arondir, Daniel Wayman as The Stranger, Charles Edwards as Lord Celebrimbor, Sam Hazeldine replacing Joseph Morley as Adar, Lloyd Owen as Elendil, and Charles Vickers as Sauron. Now, when it comes to the standout performances and character development in season 2, it's giving you what feels like the phase 2 approach. In season 1, it felt like the base layer was being set. They were giving us the foundations to work with. And now with season 2, we're getting a lot more depth into the characters. Now, my top picks for the standout ones to watch are Galadriel, Elrond, Durin, Arondir, The Stranger, but we're not going to talk about him because I don't want to ruin anything for those of you who haven't watched this, Lord Celebrimbor, Elendil, Adar, and Sauron. Galadriel picks up from where she left off in season 1, being a determined character with a clear mission. She believes in creating the Rings of Power to save the elven race and prepare for the threat of Sauron. Throughout the season, Galadriel pushes hard for the rings' creation, growing more convinced of their necessity despite others' hesitations. Her main challenge is convincing her fellow elves to support her bold plan, facing doubts and fears about the Rings of Power. By the season's end, her persistence pays off, and the other elves agree to forge the rings. This momentum sparks a significant step in her journey to fight Sauron. Galadriel's story is about resilience and determination. Her willingness to challenge the status quo really highlights her strength, and hints at the dangers of her relentless pursuits, making her character arc that much more engaging. Elrond is the voice of caution, strongly opposing the creation of the Rings of Power, and it's all due to Sauron's deception when he proposed the idea while disguised. Throughout the season, Elrond sticks to his beliefs, warning Galadriel and others about the risks of forging the rings. His warnings often lead to intense debate with Galadriel as he advocates for a more careful approach. Elrond's main challenge is persuading the elves to reconsider forging the rings, facing powerful voices who see them as their only hope. His friendship with Galadriel is strained by their conflicting views. In the end, Elrond must accept the decision to forge the rings, despite his concerns about the consequences. While his worries are acknowledged, the urgency felt by others takes precedence. Elrond's journey is challenging. He's being forced to balance his desire to protect his people with the reality of potential dangers ahead. His character stands out as a wide leader burdened by responsibility, adding depth to his role. Durin is defined by his loyalty and desire to help Middle-earth, especially the elves. His choice to share the mithril against his father's orders shows his compassion and bravery. Throughout the season, Durin clashes with his father, King Durin III, who opposes aiding the elves. He secretly shares mithril to save them, risking his position and his relationship with his father. As he notices his father being corrupted by the ring, Durin feels torn between family loyalty and moral duty. Durin's main challenge is balancing his loyalty to his father with his responsibility to do what's right for Middle-earth. He struggles to obey his father's questionable orders, while confronting him about the ring's dangers. Durin ultimately chooses to follow his moral convictions. He confronts his father about the ring's corrupting influence, risking further alienation but standing firm in his commitment to what's right. Durin's journey is powerful and painful, as he faces the conflict between loyalty and moral duty. His transformation from a loyal son into a strong leader makes him a memorable and inspiring character. Elendil has an intense character arc this season. Driven by the loss of his loved one, he's seeking out truth and hunting down evil. His incredible combat skills give us that deja vu moment where we're reminded of Legolas. Throughout the season, Elendil dives into battle after battle, showcasing his remarkable fighting abilities. In one memorable scene, he takes down a group of orcs single-handedly, reminding us of the classic Legolas moments. Elendil faces constant danger as he confronts the growing darkness. His grief pushes him, but also risks clouding his judgment as he might push himself too far in his quest for vengeance. Eventually, Elendil realizes that his mission is about more than just avenging his loss. It's about protecting the living. He transforms his pain into purpose, focusing on a larger cause. Watching Elendil's journey through loss and pain, as well as vengeance this season, has been both thrilling and touching. His evolution into a protector of Middle-earth adds depth to his character and solidifies him as a standout warrior in this season. Lord Celebrimbor is a tragic figure this season. Once a notable and skilled elf, he gets seduced by darkness, which leads him to create the 9 Rings of Power. His fall into manipulation is both fascinating and heartbreaking. A gripping moment occurs when Celebrimbor, influenced by darkness, forges the rings. The shadows twist around him, highlighting his initial struggle and the weight of his choices. Celebrimbor's main challenge is the clash between his noble intentions and the dark influence now controlling him. He initially aims to create something beautiful for his people, but falls into Sauron's manipulation, losing sight of his true purpose. By the end of the season, Celebrimbor grapples with the consequences of his actions. Although he creates the rings, he becomes a pawn of dark forces, leaving him isolated and haunted. Celebrimbor's journey illustrates how power can even corrupt the best intentions. His transformation from a respected craftsman to a puppet of darkness adds depth to the story, serving as a cautionary tale about ambition and integrity. Adar is a clever and powerful enemy. As a master strategist, he poses a significant threat to the elves, showcasing that he's not just another villain. One standout moment is when Adar carefully plans a battle against the elves, revealing his skill in tactics. His calmness during chaos shows just how confident and capable he is. Adar's main challenge is dealing with the elves who want to stop him. He must think quickly to outsmart them while keeping his own forces in line. By the end of the season, Adar doesn't completely succeed, but he proves his worth as a strategist, leaving a lasting impact on the story. Adar's journey is interesting, and it really highlights that it's not all just about fighting. It's about brains and strategy. His character adds depth to the show, and he makes the conflict that much more engaging. Elendil is a character that embodies strength and purpose. His journey is all revolving around him trying to find his path and what his destiny is to be, which makes him a compelling figure in the story. A memorable moment is when Elendil is finally bestowed the Sword of Elendil, originally known as Narsil. This moment symbolizes his acceptance of his role in the fight against evil, and marks a significant turning point in his character arc. Elendil's main challenge is accepting his responsibilities and the weight of his lineage. He grapples with the expectations that come with wielding such a legendary weapon, while also facing the looming threat of Sauron. By the end of the season, Elendil has embraced his destiny, fleeing Numenor to join the fight against Sauron and save Middle-earth. Elendil's journey is inspiring. He's showcasing his growth from uncertainty to confidence. His evolution adds depth to the show, making his character arc one of the highlights of season 2. That leaves my chosen standout one to watch, out of the ones to watch, being Sauron. If we didn't already think that Sauron was a clever deceiver, he's completely upped his game and become the ultimate deceiver in this season. He hides his true identity while manipulating others around him, showcasing his cunning nature. And it's even more impressive when some people have already figured out and word is spreading, but he somehow kept that secret from reaching the ones that he wants to truly manipulate. Throughout the season, Sauron disguises himself as a helpful ally to the elves. He earns their trust while secretly working to further his dark plans. Sauron's main challenge is keeping his true identity a secret. He must avoid the rising suspicion while manipulating others to achieve his goals. He navigates this challenge by using his charm and intelligence to distract from his true motives, gaining the elves' trust as he pushes his agenda. Sauron's journey is fascinating because he's a master of manipulation. Watching him spin a web of lies is both thrilling and unsettling, making him my absolute favourite character in this show. When it comes to the visual and cinematography in The Rings of Power Season 2, the production team have truly outdone themselves, creating stunning landscapes and dynamic action sequences that enhance the story. One amazing visual moment is the stunning view of Numenor, especially the Grand Tower with the white tree, which connects to Gondor's lore. This detail enriches the world and deepens the story. A memorable scene happens during the Elven Charge, where the camera uses a special riding shot that puts viewers right in the action. This technique creates a thrilling feeling of speed and urgency, making you feel like you're right in there with the warriors. The visuals and camera work increase the tension during intense battle scenes. Blurred backgrounds focus on important characters, heightening emotions and showing the stakes and personal struggles amongst the chaos. Striking visuals help clarify key moments by adding the emotional weight. For example, when the tree characters appear, their peaceful beauty stands in contrast to the conflict, giving viewers a moment to reflect on the themes of hope and perseverance. The visual and cinematography make the story more immersive, enhancing the emotional impact and making the show visually captivating. I mean, they did have the highest budget ever for a TV show, so I'm happy that it's met expectation, that its visual and cinematography appeal is right up there, because it should be. When it comes to the entertainment value, The Rings of Power Season 2 really kicks things into gear, building on the groundwork laid in Season 1 and drawing viewers in with an exciting climax. In comparison to other fantasy shows and films, this season stands out for its engaging storytelling and character development. It keeps you hooked and offers a refreshing take on familiar themes, avoiding cliches that sort of surround the genre. The biggest challenge with The Rings of Power Season 2 is all to do with its pacing. Given the fact that it's 8 episodes, the show only really and truly kicks into action by episode 6. Overall, I would say that season 2 is much better than season 1. And I do get that season 1 was laying out its stall and building on the character development and world story building, but season 2 definitely leaves you more fulfilled. It delivers a mix of action, emotion, and unexpected twists that enhance the delivery of the show, and in turn, the viewing experience. I give season 2 of The Rings of Power a 4 out of 5 buckets, meaning it's a binge-watching blockbuster. So here's the binge-watching question. If you were to wake up and find yourself in Middle-earth itself, you are in Lord of the Rings, and you had to choose an alliance, which alliance would you choose? For me personally, I would choose the elves, because I absolutely love Legolas. He is hands down my favourite character. But let me know your answers down in the comments below. As always, don't forget to smash a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and follow us on social media to stay up to date with the latest content. If you like what you've seen here, and you want to see more, click right here to see more. I'm Matthew, this is Binge Watcher, thanks for binging with me.